United States Congress, 24th Congressional District.
Good evening, everyone. With this mask, it's fogging up my glasses. Today in America, we are battling two viruses. One seemed to appear out of thin air, forcing us into seclusion in our homes and shutting the world down as we know it. The second one has been festering in our country for generations. Watching the video of George Floyd being killed over a period of 8 minutes and 46 seconds at the hands of a police officer, someone who swore an oath to protect and serve the people, is sickening. It evokes anger, frustration, sadness, helplessness. This has been very painful for many in our country. These are the same feelings we had when Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, and so many more. The complete disregard for human life in all of these cases is horrifying to witness. Officer Chauvin, yes, Officer Chauvin, callously kept his knee on George Floyd's neck despite 16 pleas from Mr. Floyd that he could not breathe. 16. In the course of watching those 8 minutes and 46 seconds, all of the pent-up anger, frustration, pain, and sadness that has existed in the Black communities for centuries, held back only by a long-stead resilience, erupted with allies into nationwide protests. To say, we are done dying. Let's say it, we are done dying. We are seeing this sentiment expressed across all 50 states and Washington, D.C. right now. And even in other nations, as we stand together to protest continued injustice. Standing here today, we are saying we will not stand to see another Black person killed at the hands of a rogue officer without accountability. We will not stand for continued inequalities prevalent in so many of our systems, which have disproportionately impacted the lives of Black Americans, whether that be in education outcome rates, of incarceration, wealth disparities, access to health care, higher maternal mortality rates, and the list goes on and on. In fact, that we had our first Black president did not erase the fact that racism continues to be a systemic issue that cuts across every facet of American life. In fact, we have witnessed a resurgence of white nationalism and racism that we have not seen since Martin Luther King Jr. stood amongst us during the Civil Rights Movement, when the Ku Klux Klan terrorized neighborhoods. Racists have been emboldened under an administration that thrives off of creating fear, intimidation, and threats. As a veteran, I was outraged to watch this president threaten to turn our military against fellow Americans. In this moment, we have an incredible opportunity to organize, to unite, to bring about the systemic change that we collectively seek. We should turn our pain into purpose and purpose into progress. We may not all walk in the shoes of our Black brothers and sisters, but we stand beside them as allies in the movement towards justice. I have been moved by the diversity of those showing up to peacefully protest over this last week. The protests have actively sought to include indigenous voices, allies across the color spectrum, and LGBTQ allies. We cannot allow a small minority of people who have sought to take advantage of this moment to incite violence or loot for their own gain to take away from the message at the heart of this movement. Black Lives Matter. And we should not rest until justice and equality are achieved. We must continue to denounce violence and raise our collective voices so our purpose and cause are heard. If we continue to do that and work together to reach common ground through our differences, we can achieve the outcomes we desire. We know from history that powerful changes can only come about when people stand up and speak out. It was a long road to get to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed into law, ending legal segregation in public places and banning employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Next came the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Following the tragic assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, 6 days later, the Fair Housing Act was also passed, which prohibited discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing. These were important landmark actions, an enduring legacy for the work of Dr. Martin Luther King and what he did by peaceful organizing, building coalitions, and advocating with public officials. Substantive change is not accomplished voluntarily or simply with the stroke of a pen. It takes everyone like you here today, to put in the work. We currently have a House of Representatives that recognizes the work for justice that is being done by advocates and organizations. That is why I have joined a House resolution recently introduced to condemn brutality, racial profiling, and excessive use of force by law enforcement. It also calls for the adoption of reforms and policies that improve oversight and independent investigations to hold officers and departments accountable. It reasserts the Department of Justice authority to investigate instances of racial profiling, police brutality, and violence, and supports efforts to establish a civilian review board to investigate instances of police misconduct, and reforms law enforcement protocols to bring an end to police brutality, racial profiling, and the use of excessive and deadly force. It is imperative we listen to Black voices when we are considering policy reforms, and I commend my colleague, Representative Ayanna Presley, for her leadership on this resolution. Well, this is the start. You and I know that the House is just one part of the equation. It will require continued collective efforts with the United States Senate, a new White House, and all levels of local, county, and state governments to bring about measured and progressive policies. The work needs to be done in our city halls, police departments, county chambers, and in our state capitals by members of our community and our elected leaders together. Without buy-in and collaboration from both the community and local policymakers and stakeholders, policies will not achieve the effective reforms deserving of this moment. Let's recommit to do the hard work. Let's have the difficult conversations. Let's demand the change we want to see. Please continue to engage in peaceful protests, as it is the only way we can move forward together towards a better society. Thank you all for including me, and thank you to the NAACP and all the organizations who have come together to make today possible. Please remember, we are still in a pandemic, so continue to wear your masks, socially distance. We need all the people here to stay healthy and safe for the long road ahead. Also, if you have not completed your census, you have to do that. Please do that when you get home tonight. That way, our community can get the financial resources we need and deserve for the next decade. And most importantly, register to vote. And use your vote this November for the values you believe in. People have died in pursuit of the right to vote, the right to have their voices heard. Make yours count. Stay safe and be well. Adelante!